Carly, is Shannon also with us today? Okay, just you.
No, I'm sorry. We had some technical difficulties the other day, so she had joined with me on, so I realized the name still said the same thing. No, it's just
Okay.
me today. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, so sorry. Okay, so getting back to it, and I'm just talking to kind of fill time, to be honest, but welcome to the inaugural meeting of the Outreach Committee of the Sexual Misconduct Survey Council. The agenda is in the chat, and so you have a couple of things to work on today. One of them is to choose a chair for your work. And then another one is just discussing scope of work and next steps. So I am calling this meeting to order and we'll turn it over to you all.
Well, hello. And Carly, are you the chair of the bigger board? I can't remember.
Nope.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
so that's, I think we've got Rowan, who is it? It's Martina, and we've got two other folks on there too, but not me.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. I was just trying to get my bearings there.
Martina Adea Powell and Katie Green in the Attorney General's
office.
Yes.
That's right.
Great. So looking at the agenda, it looks like we've got to do a couple of items, right? We have to pick a co-chair and then just kind of chat about we are deciding our scope. Is that right, Rowan and Kevin? Okay. I don't know if it's helpful. It's like Dr. Howard, Jennifer, I've been able to chat with you all like at different points in time, but if it's helpful, if we want to do introductions or anything, happy to do that. Happy to kind of go wherever folks feel best.
Oh, I mean, I think a quick intro would be nice to get to know each other. But yeah, so I'm Jimmy. I serve as the interim dean of students and deputy Title IX coordinator at University of Oregon. Excited to be working on this particular subcommittee.
Same. And I'm Carly. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the campus coordinator at SATF, and then also help work in our admin side of things. So working to do technical assistance for the colleges and universities, but also helping with any of our legislative efforts and implementation that SATF is involved in. So similarly excited to be with you all.
So sorry. I had a slight emergency. Okay.
Also, if you need to take time for that, I think we're supportive of that.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's done. My dog just ran out. It's, a thing. So
we were doing it.
Sorry, I was just saying my other
No,
dog.
sorry, we were just doing quick introductions.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I'm Jennifer Wilson, Executive Director for Diversity, Inclusion, and Cultural Engagement, and the Title IX Coordinator at Oregon Tech. Anything else? Was that it? Just who I am? Okay. Sorry. I'll collect myself now.
You're perfect. I think we all know how this works. We all know things are busy and happening, so you're in good company. In terms of choosing a co-chair or Rowan and Kevin, will you remind me, please? Is it just one or do we need to have two? Because I also know we have another member that couldn't make it today that'll be on sabbatical for a couple months, right?
There's no requirement. It could be one, two. You can all be co-chairs if you want. However you want to swing it.
I love that. Do folks have any preferences?
Well, I'm definitely willing to do co or chair stuff. But I also don't think, I mean, it's such a small committee, the work is shared anyways. So I don't super have a preference for either. And so, I mean, but like I said, I'm happy to take on some of that work, but again, whatever structure we agree to is fine with me.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm the same. I wish that I could volunteer to take on more duties, but I was actually just added to another governor's committee and I have like 4 of my own. So I'm not I don't quite have the bandwidth to take on much more responsibility than this.
Yeah. I think I'm kind of in a similar boat, and I know that we all again are in that where it's like everybody's got a lot of things, but Jimmy, if you're willing, I think that that would be really wonderful, and I'm willing to support with like other work and things in the background or helping with logistical things. In and I think that having just a point person for us is also just helpful in keeping things on track. So if you're willing to, I would be really, really appreciative of that.
Yeah, that sounds fine. I'm happy to do that.
Yay. Well done. You've got 50% of your agenda accomplished already. Yay.
Done.
Yeah. Jimmy, I went ahead and put this is from the expectations. And so this is
Mhm.
just the expectations for the responsibilities for the chair.
Yeah. Great. And then the scope of the work that was kind of outlined for us in the previous document. Is that correct? The when we decided on these committees. I need to navigate to that document because I haven't looked at it in a minute.
This is comforting because I also need to refresh. So
Yeah,
thank
yeah. We're all busy, you know. You gotta get in the work where you can squeeze it in.
Yep.
Does that link work for you?
Oh, let's see.
It should be the link to the page that has the document on it.
Yes, it does work to me.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
And then oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna ask really quick, if stuff is going into the chat, I can't see anything. It says that I'm not a member of the chat, so I don't know if that, like, I just want to make sure I'm not missing if you're popping things in that are meant for all of us.
Let's see. Kevin, is there a way to fix that so that?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'll check into it here. Hold on a sec.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's my turn to step away for a sec.
Jennifer and Jimmy, are you able to see the chat?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. There could be a very high likelihood, Rowan, that it's a technical error on my end. I feel like that is.
Okay, so Carly, I'm going to go ahead and drop the link into an email for you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Sure. It's okay.
Yeah. So based on my read and what I recall from the last time we met, a lot of our work might be like waiting until we have at least some kind of a draft of the survey. I mean, we could do some, I think, Rowan, you were talking about like doing some initial outreach to give people a heads up to kind of see who we should be contacting. And so yeah, I feel like a lot of our work is dependent on getting a full, like, or at least close to a draft so we can get feedback and connect with the different folks on the different campuses. So that was sort of how I remembered it. I'm not sure if that's how you all remember or if there's something I'm missing.
Apologize. I have a guest dog in the house right now
Okay.
who's barking. But yeah, I think there's a lot of groundwork that you can do in just introducing yourselves to the campuses and say, we will be your point people for information or for questions about the survey. When we get into the feedback stage, who do you want us to contact? If you want to ask them if there are any student groups on campus who might be available to provide student feedback. I think that would be, that could be really helpful too. So I feel like maybe thinking about developing like what an outreach strategy would look like.
Yeah.
Might be helpful, and do it an outline and then kind of mesh that with your timeline.
Yeah, that sounds like a great starting point.
Would it be helpful if I took notes? And Rowan, and Kevin, if I take notes, do I have to send them to you all? How does that work?
I'm taking notes, so you're all good.
You're
I'll write up
best.
I'll write up some meeting minutes and get those sent to you the next day or two.
Okay, great.
What a luxury. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Are there any pieces that thinking about creating a outreach strategy? I'm happy to take the information we kind of put here, put it into a draft and kind of like get folks' ideas on that and kind of like shape it from but are there things that we should include in that outreach strategy that are just top of mind for you all?
I wonder. Go ahead, Jennifer. Go. I feel like I've
Oh,
been talking a lot.
I was just going to say, perhaps a link to the bill for sure we need to include in there,
Yeah.
because I know that that KCC, or the Klamath Community College, which is just down the road from us, their Title IX coordinator had no idea that the bill, I know, had even passed. And so I've been working with them, and I had to find the latest version and send that to them. So like that might be a really good place to have that in there. Be like, oh yeah, if you weren't familiar, here's this bill. And then maybe outline some of the, like, just bullet point some of the things that they could reach out to us for assistance in, because the bill has lots of working parts. And I don't know that if somebody just sat down and read through it really quick, that they would get like all of those pieces. I mean, it took some dissecting, right, for me to get through it, even to help with the revisions, right, to make it to some of those technical fixes. So I don't know. I feel like explaining why we're reaching out. I know it seems redundant, but I feel like there's plenty of Title IX coordinators who have no idea what the expectations for them are with this.
I think if you could explain that the Survey Council is only those sections of the bill, and for questions about the rest of the bill, direct them over to Kevin and I, that would be incredibly helpful, because I agree with you. It's really confusing, and we've done our best to try to get information out there, but the reporter from last week, right, had been pretty confused about that too. So.
Yeah, there's just a lot of confusion, right? Especially with the new regs. I think people are just very confused with all the new regs flying at them, all the new requirements and things that, if you have a Title IX coordinator who's not a designated Title IX coordinator, which a lot of small schools do, right? They're doing HR things and everything else, or diversity work like me. Then they may not be keeping up on all of those things, because it takes a lot of time and effort. So I don't know. I just think that could be a really important piece to stick in there. And then, of course, like what the expectations for them would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was thinking of it in a couple of different buckets. One bucket being what do we need to communicate and at what stage. So like this, I think, Jennifer, you saying that about KCC, like that is so consistent with what I hear. Like when I talk to schools, they're like, wait a minute, how long ago did that thing pass? And you're like, it's okay. Like we're working on it. So I think that will probably be not unique to your area. And so having the like initial, hey, here's by the way, this is a thing. Here's some things that you can reach out to this committee specifically for. Here's who you can reach out to, Kevin, Rowan. Additionally, here's other resources for other areas. And I'd be happy if you want to list SATF or other folks in the like, hey, if you're having questions about other parts of the bill, please feel welcome to reach out. So I think as an initial stage, and then we can come up with maybe like, what do we want to communicate at different points throughout that timeline, right? And then the other component that I was thinking of is the networks that we're all a part of that we can leverage or use to be able to share that information out rather than just like a blast email. I know parts of us we're all parts of different networks for that. So like Title IX regional coordinator meetings or other areas, maybe brainstorming a list of who are those folks that we're in pretty consistent contact with that we could make sure also need to know.
I know from my Title IX coordinator's perspective, just general updates would be helpful, like where we are, since everything's public. I mean, also even like, sharing our progress on things. I think that could be helpful, because otherwise I think she's only getting updates from me. And so it might be helpful to be able to provide uh, some means to have some kind of consistent communication, whether that's check in with us and here's a place where you can find that, or we'll email you on a quarterly basis or something like that, to like make sure that we have consistent communication, so that folks, when we get to the place where we need feedback and implementation and student feedback, all that stuff, it's not so jarring. We've been in consistent communication.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've missed the last two regional Title IX coordinator meetings, and I'm sure that they feel a little out of the loop because I've sort of been the touch point in those meetings for this, right? So if they have someone, just need broader, right? So it's not just me showing up at a meeting and that's the only way they get informed, right?
I love the idea of planning out email blasts. Sorry, Rowan. Yeah, I just was gonna say, I like the idea of like maybe having some planned, like, hey, you can reach out to us and we will reach out with an update every 2 to 3 months and just let folks know what has happened in the meantime. I think that that's great. And just I'm curious about how we would collect the email addresses information, if folks want to participate in that. And so Rowan and Kevin, I don't know if that's something that we would need to do through you all, if we need to come up with a way to organize that, but that would be the logistical component that I'd be curious about.
I really like the idea of doing, saying every quarter we will be sending you an email, doing it almost like in a newsletter format, because that offers you, the other thing that is what I see your committee really having power to do is to educate the schools about the purpose of the sexual misconduct survey and why certain kinds of implementation strategies are going to be more useful, and things that they might want to think about in terms of preparing their campus for this survey. How do you talk to students about how the information is going to be used, right? Like you could do a lot of education in there. In terms of the lists, Kevin maintains notification lists for the public meetings. So anyone who has asked to be notified when we post information about public meetings can either go to the website or can talk to Kevin and or email Kevin and they'll get on his list. I have a list of institutional contacts, which includes all of the Title IX coordinators. And we've also been sending information out to the organizations, so the Council of Presidents, which is the public schools presidents, as well as OAICU, which is the private schools, and then the community college reps as well. So so I'm happy to to share that list with you and then have it expanded. And and if you hear anybody who's like, I don't know what's going on, tell them to email us. We want to send them information.
Yeah.
We're happy to do that.
Okay.
Rowan, is the easiest way for us to do that, like if somebody's like, I want to know what's going on, do we just have like, here's their email address, or is there like a link to like a sign up form like the one you were talking about for public notification? Because happy to do either.
Right. Well, I think, Kevin, at this point, you've just been adding people from that email you, right? Or that you're asked to by someone else. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so the public meeting notice process can only be used for public meetings. But I wanted to check with you around, like we can ask NDI if we're thinking of like doing some kind of like quarterly newsletter or something. We can create a new distribution list where people can publicly sign up for that, same as the meeting notices. So that's a possibility.
One thing that would be very easy to do would be to set up a Google form with a link, or not Google, because we can't use Google, we have to use Teams or whatever, which but we could set up a form that says, I want to subscribe to meeting notifications, feedback opportunities, that sort of thing. And that way, Kevin, you could access a spreadsheet and add people from that list. And that way you wouldn't, if you're saying that the list for public notifications, we can only use that to notify people publicly, that would keep that separate, because that way people could say, yes, put me on that list, but I also want to be on this list.
Mhm.
Yeah. So the process would be like, I can't sign people up for them. So we provide them the link to the listserv where they can sign themselves up and select which options they want to have. So we can't
Oh,
do it
okay.
as like collecting emails, but we can send them the link to where they sign themselves up.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. And
Yeah.
so, and that's only for the public meetings. So for the other stuff, we would need a form. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
currently it's for the public meetings, but
uh-huh.
it could be a possibility that we can add another option for
Okay.
like newsletters or distribution. I can check with Andai about that.
Okay. The other thing we could do would be set up a form that says, if you're interested in being notified for public, here, click this link, and then that'll take
Mhm.
you to that link. It's annoying, but it might be another way around it. Anyhow, yes, we can create lists. We can create notification lists one way or another, let people know.
What tools do you all have to create like newsletters? Are there anything that's available to us in terms of resources?
We don't have any resources. So, I'm happy to look into, I mean, I used Canva pretty extensively when I was at
Yeah.
Reed. I'm not sure what other, it seems to be fairly user friendly. I don't know if there's anything else that, Kevin, are you aware, do we have access to like, oh my God, I'm so old. I was going to say PageMaker, but I think it's Illustrator now, right? Isn't that?
I'm looking on our list of apps aside from
Yeah.
Microsoft things. Let's see what else we have here. Nope, Microsoft.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I think Canva's fine. I was just curious as we kind of think about like what it would look like, be really helpful to know. So yeah, so Canva could be fine.
The other thing that allows you to do is to start branding.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that's come up in some of the guidelines is really making sure that your branding is really clear, so that folks, when they see something, they're like, oh, that refers to that sexual misconduct survey. And that kind of helps people get used to the visual of what it's going to look like. So something consistent. I don't have anyone who can do branding for us, I'm afraid. I don't know if any of you are gifted in that way. I am not.
I'm sure we could come up with something. I don't know if it'll be great, but
I do some background in that outside of my work at SATF, so I'm happy to help with that. I want to clarify for us, Rowan, is the branding that you're speaking to, would that be for like, hey, schools, the sexual misconduct survey, like, so we are branding it as one specific thing that then everybody would have, or would schools have the ability to rebrand and include that? Because I know for some schools that's really important to not have it feel like an outside entity, and so I just want to make sure I'm clear on that.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I think for what I was thinking about in terms of branding was mostly like choosing a color scheme. So choosing a couple of colors, and then choosing a couple of fonts, right? And so everything kind of looks the same. One thing that you might, as you start getting into implementation and thinking about that, what some of the other surveys have done is create a poster which can be adapted to a campus that has some basic language on it. And like you said, the campus could choose not to use that, but you could offer them, this is what it looks like. There's, I think one of the values in that is making it clear that this is a statewide survey, right? Like it might be coming from Oregon Tech, or it might be coming from, Lynn Benton Community College, but it's the same survey that everybody in the state is being asked to do. And I think there's a value in that, because you need to, people are really going to wonder, why are you asking me these questions? What are you going to do with this information? And there are on some campuses more so than others, there are some real issues of trust, of sharing this information with the administration.
yeah. On that note, I think this is a question about resources. When I hear like posters, materials, I hear need for someone to design those. Newsletters, I think Canva's great. But when I think about those other things that we might want to be providing as resources or things that folks can adapt, what might be our ability to either contract or find someone who could do some of this work? I don't think there's a ton of money connected to this bill, but wondering, because again, I think that should materially impact what we can do, so that we're not overstretching our means. So yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, there's no money. So yeah, I've used Canva for poster designs and brochures and things like that. And it works pretty well. I think I need to look into whether we can, how much it would cost us for an institutional account. Because I really hate to have someone using their institution's resources for this. I'm not sure how that would work. Carly, are you on the chat now? Are you able to see those things? Kevin just posted a link.
Let me double check. I don't think
Okay.
so. No, nothing
Okay.
has been
Oh,
popping up for
okay.
me.
Bummer. I thought
Um,
I was able to add you, but no.
It's
Okay.
okay. No, I'm not worried about it. I'm just gonna continue just rolling along. Y'all are okay. I think so. I want to offer two things on that front. One, we've done a significant amount of those projects where we had to design posters, things like that, to be utilized by all of the institutions across the state. And so I have some pre-existing templates that we could utilize or augment. And we have an agency nonprofit account that has all the full scale of Canvas Pro account capabilities. So I feel like that could be something that I could assist with, and just would need to be really mindful of, we can't as an agency do any kind of uh, most likely can't do any kind of translation services or printing, and so anything beyond just like the basic design components. But this is something that we do pretty often for projects, and so I feel
Right.
okay about doing some of those kind of like um, poster kits and things like that for folks.
Great.
That's
Yeah, I think
brilliant. And the sexual,
oh, sorry. I was just saying that I think even just passing digital files to campuses would be
Mhm.
extremely helpful, right? Because I mean, I can print things on my campus, but do I have the time to sit down and design them and think them all the way through and know, right? And know all of the components as a Title IX coordinator? Probably not. But if someone were to send me something with all of those things, I could probably find resources to print them. So
Mhm.
Awesome. And we're happy to also provide folks with, there's a template file. And so that's been something like with our campus reporting options website in the past, where we sent the files to the schools who felt very strongly that it needed to have their colors, their branding, their logos, additional information on it. You can send it as a template, and then they can just edit it as they need to with their own branding. So we could also set that up.
Mhm.
And the task force's materials are really, really good quality too. So thank you for that. Carly, I just tried to add you as a presenter. Can you see the chat now? Still not. Okay.
It's okay.
Okay.
I'm all right. I was like,
Okay.
I'm also happy
Sorry.
to go back if there's other links at the end that I need to review. I can do that too. But I feel okay tracking right now.
Yeah, nothing else I
Thank you
can
all for
do.
trying to help.
Sorry.
One
Yeah.
other
Thanks for.
question.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead. I don't know who was speaking because I couldn't see the screen at the time.
It's okay. It's just me. I was just gonna say I had a question. Once we kind of get around like the how do we communicate and some of the resources to, just around who do we think needs to be included outside of this committee of folks to like make sure that those materials and things are um, landing in the way that we're hoping to with all of the folks that we're outreaching towards. So that was just something I was curious about. And we don't have to go into that in depth right this minute.
I think that's where you'll probably coordinate with the language subcommittee, because they're talking about using trauma-informed language and trying to keep the language fairly consistent across the different components.
I was just going to say that thanks for sharing the newsletter. I think that's a helpful. And I looked at some of their other newsletters while we were chatting, and I think those are very doable. Okay. In terms of implementation, rather than just outreach, Rowan, I know that you did I know you've done some digging with like other schools or other states that have done this. Um, did any of them share like an implementation plan? Okay.
Yes, we have several implementation plans were shared, I think, and several of the schools have already done implementations. So for example, we'll talk about the meeting that we had last Friday where we had someone from New Hampshire and someone from Massachusetts, and they both shared theirs. There's also the Prevention Innovation Resource Center folks. I can't remember which university they're with, but they're a research pod within the university, and this is kind of their thing, is thinking about how do you increase response rates, and how do you share information with people in a way that makes them want to complete a 20-minute survey. And keeping the survey to less than 20, those sorts of things. So the PERC folk were actually on, I think it was New Hampshire's task force, which is analogous to our council, and they are more than willing to do a panel training for us. We were going to talk about that at next week's council meeting, but we were thinking maybe October. And that would give you some opportunities to talk with folks who've really done this a lot and ask some specific questions. So and also time to review the materials before you have that meeting, so you can figure out what you want to ask.
Yeah, very helpful.
Keep having like questions percolate, but I don't know where to take them next. So if you all are seeing me do that, I know that my face is pretty transparent in that way.
So I had a question, kind of off, but so obviously we're talking about outreach to the universities who have to complete the survey and all of those things, but well, I guess it's not survey related, it's just bill related, so it's probably not our job. I was just curious if there was any, if we were planning or thinking about any outreach to like the community not-for-profits, letting them know, right, that there are there's new state legislation that, right, is going to require some partnerships between higher ed and, right, those local not-for-profits.
Yeah,
I just wasn't sure if we were thinking about that kind of outreach as well.
Yeah, I can give an update on what we've done so far around that. So we're part of the state kind of grassroots organizing around legislative public policy issues, and there's a monthly we call it like public call, where all of those domestic violence, sexual assault, and other agencies, that includes child abuse assessment centers, anybody who would be kind of in that non-for-profit space can attend. And so we've done some updates in those spaces. We've also done some updates within just like the grassroots steering committee to make sure that when they reach out to their partners and they're talking about campus work, that they know about that. We've also done a fair amount of collaborating with the coalition. So the Oregon Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence is the statewide agency that helps provide support to all of those nonprofits. And I have done multiple points of outreach to them saying, hey, when you're talking to folks, if you're getting technical assistance, please remind them that this is something that's happening. And so one of the things that we are trying to set up for this fall is to have a couple of webinars for nonprofit agencies to attend, to learn about the bill and to be able to understand a little bit more about like some of their components, just from like the domestic violence, sexual assault logistical program area. Like, how can, if a school reaches out to you, like, yes, this is a real thing, please do that. And then also connecting them to the HEC, saying like, hey, these are other resources. So they'll be talking a little bit about functionally what does that look like for them within their programs, but then also like, yes, please support your school's work, because it is a real thing. And folks have been really excited about that. Like, the folks that we have spoken to who run those agencies are very willing to work on that. What they have asked for, and maybe this is a consideration for this committee, is updates. So maybe we include some of their programs or an offer for them to sign up for the email newsletter. And then the other thing that they have asked for is if there are ways that we can help them streamline that. And I know, Rowan, you all have spoken about that in different capacities, but yeah. So, and it's also been brought up at a couple of like statewide meetings where they attend as well. So
Yeah.
that's what I know of so far.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
good. I was just
Yeah.
wondering if we were doing both fronts, right? Because it is sort of a collaborative bill.
Yeah, the domestic violence sexual assault agencies really don't. We'll ask for feedback from them on the survey when we start, looking at language probably. But where they're mostly going to be working with the institutions is in the section of the bill that talks about memorandums of understanding and providing advocacy on campus. So those are a little bit separate. But I'm hopeful that and Carly knows me and Jenna knows me, and they know that they can, if anybody wants to ask about that. But Carly, didn't you already had offered some model MOU language, I think? Weren't there a couple of things?
Yeah, so and this came back from templates that I think Every Voice Coalition, who helped generate this bill, had provided. And so we utilize some of those. And then there's some from other states that are essentially sample templates for community programs and colleges, universities, community colleges to do those MOUs. And so we've had some folks reach out and we've sent those to them. We have not done like a big coordinated blast of those to all the programs though.
This is off topic again, but that's also something that could be shared with the Title IX coordinators at those institutions, right? That there is draft MOU language.
Yeah, and I'm happy to share that out to folks here too, if that's helpful. Is one of our objectives for today that we need to schedule out our additional meetings? Okay.
Yeah. I guess how frequently do we want to meet? Do we already say how often we would meet? Is that something that we've already established, Rowan or Kevin? No.
The big council meets monthly, right? So, I mean, I think it would be great if we could meet in between those meetings for sure.
Mhm.
But maybe we might actually need to meet more than once until we get some kind of correspondence figured out. Just so that it doesn't push the creation of that correspondence back, right? So October is reporting deadline, right, for this.
Well, no, that October deadline is different. That's for a different part of the bill. So
oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're implementing the whole darn bill.
I know, I know. It's my brain that all of it is together. So sorry, Title IX coordinator.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, I think we have a pretty decent amount of time to get our stuff up and running.
Okay.
My calendar is really wild. And so it might be complicated for me to find a time right now. I mean, we can aim to do maybe like a date in the future. But I just can't.
I mean, it might be useful. There's 5 members, right, of our committee.
Uh-huh.
So that's not too terribly hard to coordinate, maybe. So maybe we could send a doodle or something to the 5 people with multiple options,
Times,
right?
yeah.
I mean, I think the one I got for the big committee meeting for this had like what 28 options for us or something. So we could do something with like multiple options and then find the one that works for most of us, and like just say like on a regular basis, right? Like maybe we'll find that everybody has 10 o'clock on Wednesdays free. I don't. I'm just throwing it up. Right. But I don't know. I mean, maybe that's our best option for finding a regular time to, right? Since there's just the three of us here, it might be best just to send out a doodle with lots of options and be like, let's all try to find one.
Yeah.
If I could make a suggestion, I would recommend meeting. So Kevin has to have the agenda out on the Thursday before the big council meeting. And so the Wednesday before that deadline, that's today, right? And so you would want to meet maybe in the week before that deadline. So it would be, a week to 2 weeks before the council meeting. That way, if there was anything that you wanted to bring to the council to vote on, you could decide that in this meeting, and then we could get it on the agenda, because it would, just thinking about public meetings law. So my suggestion would be, so the co-chairs meeting is always going to be at least a week before the council meeting. So I think just the co-chairs meetings would be the end of the week, and then the week ahead of, I'm saying this backwards, but so for example, last Tuesday through this Wednesday would be options for meeting this month, right? And then, so if you do that on a monthly basis, you're going to get a pretty consistent response. I am not saying that very coherently at all. I apologize. I'll do I think the when is good, if that's okay with you. That when is good, because I like that one. You can kind of just paint over what works, and it tells you what works for the most people. Is Andrew the one who's on sabbatical? Is he out? Kevin, do we remember?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think you're correct.
Okay. So there's
have Justin as well.
Yeah, just Justin. So, and I don't believe I've heard from Justin. So, okay. All right. I will send a when is good poll for the next meeting then. Okay.
Well,
Would
I
it
feel
be
like
helpful?
oh, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, would it be helpful in the interim for me to just look at some of the options for things like posters, other outreach materials that are available through Canva, and have the list of that next time? Is that something that's helpful for folks?
Sure.
Okay. Happy to do it.
Yeah.
Andrew's only on sabbatical for this month, so he's back going forward, looks like.
Okay. And I will be gone sort of the end of this month. I leave on the 21st for medical leave, and I won't be back until September 11th. But as long as we're not meeting, and then I shouldn't be the one making the quorum. That was my concern, since we're such a small group.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll figure it out. And I think work through, when folks can be here and who can help with what. But I feel like we have enough here to get us rolling on some options for next meeting in terms of, what our direction is. Again, I am happy to put together sort of a draft outreach plan based on some of the things that we talked about, and then we can just rip it to shreds next meeting. So yeah.
You can use it as the basis for further discussion.
That's right.
I like that rephrase.
Sorry.
Thanks for being willing to do that.
Yeah, my PhD taught me to let things get ripped up.
Yes.
Okay, so that seems good to me. And so Rowan and Kevin, are you all going to help coordinate the time for the next meeting? Okay, perfect. Well, then I don't see any other business. Do you all have anything else that we need to chat about before we head out?
Jennifer, I wish you well with your medical leave. I guess we will miss you at the next council meeting then. But
yes.
hope all goes well. We'll look forward to seeing you in September.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
All righty. Bye, everyone.
Thank you all.